Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you to PWI for inviting us both today. Thank you, Nick, very much, and echo the words of Peter, and thank you very much for supporting us with the product that we're going to talk about today. You've been a constant support in that in terms of sponsorship and the lead customer role you've played in that and inspiring the team as well, so not only echo what Peter said. Paul and I are here to share a little bit about the Intelligent Infrastructure Programme with you all today. We're going to focus on one of the products, Insight, and I was reflecting over lunch and had a conversation with Mark. I'm not sure where he's gone to, so we're going to have to choose who's going to drop the name of the product because we've got two Insight products now for two different companies. But we're going to talk about Insight and show you some of that. Paul's going to take you through that. And I'm just going to talk a little bit, very briefly, about some of the other products that we're building in intelligent infrastructure, just so you get an appreciation that it's not just about our flagship product, Insight, which is our predictive and preventative capability for Network Rail. So what are we? We're a data-driven railway, turning data into intelligence, and we're introducing a range of different technologies. A lot of the technologies that we're developing are Microsoft-based capabilities and infrastructure. We work with Microsoft partners and extended partners. We're working across all of the asset disciplines within Network Rail and trying to build systemic solutions, and we're at the reasonably early stage of what I think will be quite a long journey for Network Rail, but an exciting one at that. But we've introduced some technologies already, and this year is going to be a really big delivery year for us. So we've got a lot of connected technologies that we're building, so the whole program as a whole is doing things like replacing our mobile capabilities. So we've had mobile capability in Network Rail, handheld capability now for 10 years. We're replacing the whole of that suite of mobile capability over the next year. We're replacing, some of you will know that we've got a fault management system, FMS, which has been in place for a long time in Network Rail. We're just in the throes of final testing and development of a new FMS system, so again linked to the mobile capability. And the new FMS fault management system will provide data into Insight that we'll talk about in a minute. We've got a whole suite of civils projects and capabilities that we're building, and they're largely safety-driven and compliance-driven, so replacing some of the enterprise management systems at the moment that some of you will be familiar with, so CARS for structures, that's going and being replaced with a Salesforce asset management system and examination system, and we're replacing OPAS, which is the system that we house and support our operational property in. We're replacing that in the next couple of months with, again, another Salesforce solution. So huge program of work, and not to mention we've got a work stream that is closely aligned and linked to what we heard about Rail Hub from Dylan and the team. We're introducing 2 or 3 planning tools over the next few years. 2 of them, Schedule It and Plan It, are kind of key capabilities that are going to move us rapidly forward and really mature the way we plan, hopefully, and support maintenance and support doing that safely, and we've heard a lot about that this morning. So we're not going to dwell on those capabilities today. I've got a little video that just encapsulates what II is about, and then Paul's going to talk about Insight, the product, and then I'll talk a little bit at the end about where we're going next. So it should work.
Britain's rail infrastructure consists of millions of interconnected assets, and they've been installed, maintained and updated throughout the network's 150 years of continual use. All those assets will degrade over time, but rates of degradation and the risk and severity of failure all vary, depending on what, where and how a particular piece of the infrastructure fails. To manage the rail system safely and reliably, Network Rail uses a strategy called FMICA, a virtual rulebook which classifies failure modes in all rail assets, assesses the risks of each, and ranks them in terms of importance. Intelligent Infrastructure is the program that takes FMICA and applies it in real life. A brain that ingests the constant stream of condition information from our monitoring sources and digests it via cloud-based data management systems. Algorithms and analytics are applied to the data, and they produce a set of suggested interventions which are prioritized in terms of safety and performance criticality. These suggested interventions and their supporting information are made available to Network Rail engineers, planners and maintenance teams via desktop tools and handheld apps, placing intelligence, insight and verification at the heart of our decision-making. Intelligent infrastructure will deliver both low-level and major infrastructure management solutions, supporting decisions as small as when to replace a rail clip, up to assisting with long-term planning over the next 10 years. It's all about delivering a data-driven railway that can predict faults and prevent them from happening. A railway that passengers and freight operators can rely on. Safe, reliable, and affordable, and fit for the future.
Talking now a little bit about one of our products, which is the Insight product. What is Insight aimed to do? Well, Insight aimed to give engineers a lot more intelligence and a lot more time to move away from functional failure end of the P2F curve right up to and getting even ahead of what we call in network rail an alert limit fault. And we're trying to predict when these faults are going to happen, anything up to 90 days before they even become the first point where an engineer would start to work on these issues. And what we do that is by taking the data from the measurement train fleet we run, from remote condition monitoring. It's not just to do with track, it's also to do with signalling as well. And what we're trying to do is just give the engineer more time to plan to do the right thing in the right place at the right time. What we've done so far for track is we've taken the data from multiple runs of measurement trains. We've used some algorithms that we've created to align the data so that when we look in the data, we know we're always looking in the same place on the track every time so that we can send an engineer to that specific location. And what we do then is taking that information and looking through history, we then start to look through linear regression in predicting forward of when that defect is going to pass through a threshold. And we're looking at the different thresholds which drive the different action limits. We've also started to visualize a phenomena called cyclic top, which is really the first time that this has been made widely available across the whole of Network Rail. And by linking the two together, because one is potentially a trigger for the other, we're again giving engineers more information in one place to make more informed decisions. A lot of this information is traditionally been in disparate systems, and what we're trying to do is pull a lot of that into just one place. We're also using plain line pattern recognition, PLPR, and you saw some of the images that were brought up by Emily earlier on with her tool. We're using the same information, and this is how we want to link the two things together. So we start to bring data that's traditionally sent out by email or on PDFs, we're starting to ingest into our tool as well, and turning it into intelligence rather than just being more data. One of the key things we were told at the start by engineers was, don't just throw us more data. We need you to do something with it to help us. We're also doing signalling, predict and prevent. So what we're looking here is data from one of our systems called Wonderware. And what we're looking is information or data that's being monitored at a set of POE every time that set of POE swings. And what we're trying to look at there is the traces that we get from the system, how we can identify through machine learning what is an anomalous trace, and how we can then use that anomalous trace to then start indicating to control center technicians about there is a potential issue with this set of POE. So with track geometry, we're looking up to 90 days of predicting a defect. With signalling, obviously, we need to react a lot quicker, so we're looking anything up to 7 days of when that's going to become a defect. What does this all mean for end users? Well, hopefully it means through having that greater intelligence, greater understanding of what information is being presented to them, they can make a more informed, prioritised decision. There's a risk score matrix in the tool we've built, which helps engineers understand. It's still a decision support tool, so at the end of the day, the local engineer still makes the final call on what he or she wants to do with the information. We're not being prescriptive. We have a high confidence factor in our various prediction algorithms of when something is going to fail. In track, it's around 72% for track geometry. We've got an accuracy level of about 90 for cyclic top, and just over 60% for track circuit and POE failures. So hopefully we give that engineers that more confidence that they will, if they don't plan something, something will fail. Transparency to analyse faults. This is all about pulling all the information we currently have in lots of different systems into one place so that they're getting a much more informed picture when they're making the decisions. And hopefully by putting all that together and, as I said before, doing the right thing in the right place at the right time, we can get fewer repeat faults, which is a bit of a scourge of the business, that we do get faults which just keep coming back. What we want to be able to do is fix them right the first time so they don't repeat. Through having the information earlier on in the planning process, hopefully this means then an engineer can go out and secure the access they need to go and fix these faults at the right time, in the right place. And even if they do need to get late notice access because something is failing rapidly and our tool will alert an engineer that something is failing very rapidly, they can go out and secure any late notice change they need and have the evidence to back it up. That's our thoughts about Insight. What I'd like to do is play a quick video of one of the DUs that we've already had working with the tool, who's been piloting the tool for the last year. And this is from the Anglia Route.
My impression of Insight was that it's something that's been needed for a long time now. Something that puts together everything that we need in one place, as opposed to going in different directions to get information. It's very good at being able to prioritise what we want to treat first. That is giving us a risk score, giving us a date of exactly when it's likely to become actionable. The push to go green and to come away from using red zone, it's getting access on track is now more important than ever. So I believe using the tool will help everybody, from planners to section managers to people who are in positions like myself.
The Insight tool we've mainly been using for cyclic top, because that's the feature it has that we haven't got anywhere else. So obviously look at the tracers a lot, use LADs and other software like that. But the difference with the Insight tool is it has the cyclic top feature, so we can see like the individual peaks of the cyclic top, which is data we've never had vision before. And we're using that to help sort of prioritise where we're putting OTMs to try and prevent them becoming severe cyclic tops that require speed restrictions. So a couple of examples from the trial we've been doing, and we had one cyclic top site which had a speed on, and the severity was actually due to the number of cycles, not the size of the peaks. So they were quite low dips, but the multiple effect adds up the amplitude. So due to that, it wasn't very easy to see by eye on site, and we tried treating it by stone blower, and it hadn't rectified it, so we'd had to leave the speed on. And we then looked at the Insight tool, and we could see the trigger point further out than what we'd originally identified, and we then treated it again with a stone blower and managed to get the speed off. So that was a useful example.
Within the tool itself, you can see what work's already been previously done there, and obviously if we've been there before and previously treated the site with measure shovel packing or Kango packing, and it's not quite worked, we obviously need this tool highlights to us it's not actually working. Why don't we try a different method? Let's look at it. May be something to do with the foundation underneath. Do we have to put this in for renewals? That type of side of it. So this tool, the future for this tool, I think, is very, very bright within the maintenance regime. I would encourage people to give it a go because it's a means to work smarter. That's the way Network Rail vision is, to work smarter going forward. So having this tool and being able to visit a site once instead of visiting it 3 or 4 times to rectify a fault is a huge, huge benefit, not just for Network Rail, but for you as a team as a whole, to be able to treat that site and obviously be more productive in going to treat other works that needs to be done.
Okay, great. So we like to show that video because, you know, we've been working with our end users now for a long time on the programme and really listening to what they need. And I think, as Nick said earlier, you know, building things that people need is really, really important. And that's been the focus of our delivery approach and how we've really tackled it. So for us, it's been sort of inspirational and, you know, I suppose gratifying that we're getting that feedback now from people, and it's really inspiring the team and the wider team to press on and build more capability and leverage what we've built so far. So you know, on the left-hand side, they're not going to go into detail in the last couple of minutes, but we've got quite a lot of capability that's being built now. Paul's talked about the PLPR and the track geometry that we're about to roll out wider than our extended pilot users. I think it's with about 250 people at the moment across the network, that people that are using it, but we're rolling it out nationally over the summer. And that's for the for track geometry and PLPR. We're also building some RBM capability so people can start to adjust thresholds and put in bespoke maintenance regimes asset by asset, and that'll be done looking at the defect data, so that's going to be coming hopefully towards the back end of the year. And we're also putting the predict and prevent capability into track quality as well. So for 8th mile sections, people will be looking at predictive degradation on 8th mile sections. So lots of exciting stuff that we're building now, and then where we want to take the product, whether we've got the time in this control period or not, we'll be telling. It's hard to build. It takes time to build some of this, and there's some unknowns in the timescales. But we want to do more intervention, decision support capability, and looking at helping support decisions that people make about the treatments that they're putting on the rail and other assets. We want to integrate the tool with Ellipse, so part of the end-to-end journey, and make that seamless so that people can actually automatically put work orders into Ellipse going forward. And then there's what I said before about kind of moving away from looking at individual assets to looking at maybe the system as a whole, and looking at multiple P2F curves and bringing it together, which will help kind of long-term planning. So quite excited about where the tool can go, and obviously lots of time and effort to get there. It's not easy building this type of technology. Oh, I missed a slide. So what does it mean for Network Rail? Well, Paul's touched on it. It really supports what we're doing around modernising maintenance. It's supporting the work that Nick's been leading on the safety task force. You know, that's why we're here today, giving people tools and capabilities that help people plan things properly, plan things better, plan things earlier, make sure that we don't get failures on the network. It can only be better for everybody from a safety perspective. There will be hopefully cost reductions as well, lots of kind of manual paper-based activities with trace papers, etc. today that we'll be hopefully removing over time, and other benefits associated with it, and making sure we invest right place, right time. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but we firmly believe that the capability that we're building, it has initial focus with our maintenance colleagues, but extended benefits to capital works, and bringing the two together. So lots of opportunities, and it's great. We've got some feedback from our customers, including Nick there. I don't know whether we made that one up actually, Nick, or not. Somebody said we might have, but I know it sounds like something you'd say. So. But yeah, so thank you very much for listening. Paul and I have to get a reasonably early train, but I'm more than happy to take any questions. I think Peter said the questions will be put online for us, and we can answer them afterwards. So thank you very much.